Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Women Petpreneurs podcast with your host, Mary Oquendo. And my guest today is Miranda Seim. Hi, Miranda.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Yeah, we're not changing your name. So I was really close to like doing that for you. Anyway, so let's start off with how did you get involved in the pet industry?
um, I think, like a lot of groomers, I started out really wanting to be a vet, and I grew up on a farm, small farm. So we had cattle, horses, chickens, ducks, geese, and ostrich, of all things. Um, but cats and dogs too, of course. Um, and I really wanted to be a vet. I went to school at North Dakota State University, and we had a pre-vet program. But if you took pre-vet, there really wasn't any fallback. So I was like, you could still get all the requirements for pre-vet through the vet tech program. So instead, I took the vet tech program and then decided I really don't care much for college. So I finished my vet tech program, my 4-year program, in 3.5 years, and I got the heck out of there. I got licensed to be a vet tech. I worked in that industry for a couple years. And then when I got pregnant with my son, the clinic I was at just really wasn't the right environment for nurturing a pregnancy, or even really having kids. I worked a lot of overtime and stuff. And so I just decided it was a better option for me to work for myself. And I had a really good friend living with me at the time, Kiri Holzer, and we turned my garage into a grooming studio for her. And so I would just pop out there every so often, and she showed me the ropes, and eventually she moved, and I took over the grooming business.
Okay. All right. Because that was my intention too for college was being a veterinarian. And I'm really glad I did not pursue that.
I
So
am too.
I don't think that I could. I mean, the suicide rate for veterinarians is like the highest. Uh,
Yep.
so I don't think I could have handled putting pets down all the time. I mean, Lord, it's hard enough when we have to do it for ourselves.
Right.
I can't imagine making a habit of doing that for other people.
Yeah.
So,
Was definitely one of the harder things. And then just to them not being able to communicate with you what's wrong. The amount of memorization that goes into being a vet, it just wasn't for me.
yeah, it was a lot of work. When I was in college, it was I majored in chemistry and I majored in biology, and I think I just burnt myself out trying to do that.
Yeah.
So I got married instead and had kids.
Yeah.
Yay! Oh well, but here we are years later doing something that we love to do. All right.
Yeah.
So you started your own business in your own home, right?
Right.
Is your business still in your home?
No, nope. I did that for about a year and a half, I think, somewhere around there. And then we moved back to be closer to my family. Um, and then I rented a facility in a boarding and daycare. So I rented their grooming space, and I did that for, I think, a year. And then I had a bit of a falling out with one of the boarding technicians, I guess you could say. And he really was not taking the safety and health of the clients into consideration with the way he was behaving. And I called that behavior out, even though it really wasn't my place because I was not an employee of the facility. Um, I did inform the owners, and they also didn't seem to care. So it really was just not a facility I wanted to be associated with. But
But
so,
kudos for you for doing that.
yeah, it in no matter where I'm at, the health and safety of the animals around me is going to be the primary concern. And they just were not doing those animals justice. And so they did ask me to leave. I had 2 weeks and a full schedule to figure out what I was going to do. And my mom, bless her heart, remembered that 2 years before this, she had seen that there was a grooming facility for sale, and she had printed out the sale bill and kept it all this time. And so we just decided to reach out, and sure enough, they never sold it. And she was still interested. So I went in on a Friday and looked at it. I talked to her Saturday. I put a deposit down Sunday, and I was running it Monday.
Yeah, that's business owner. That's making a decision and doing it.
Yeah. Yep. So it was quick. I'd never had employees before. So there was a lot to learn on my feet. But I think I've done a pretty good job.
All right. Is this the location you're at now?
Yeah, I actually have 2 locations now. Last year I bought my second location. So I've had it for about just shy of a year and a half. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So cool. Very cool. So tell me what do you love about grooming?
I think grooming is an art. I'm a very artistic person. I like that I'm not doing the same thing from day to day. I have an eye for it, I feel. So I get to be creative. Plus, I still get to be that first line of defense on health and wellness issues. Most pet parents or pets are seeing me, at least 5 times more often than they're seeing their vet. So I get to be that front line in catching anything that might be wrong with them, and that's important to me. So I'm still utilizing that education that I got.
Well, and that's really important too, because as groomers, I feel we see pets when pets are on a schedule. I'm not talking about the once a years.
Right.
Pets that are on a schedule, we see them, I think, the perfect amount of time. It's long enough to notice something different about the pet. All right. But not long enough that it's already now too late. But owners see their pets every single day. There are things I miss on my own pets because I see them every single day. And something that looks kind of small and insignificant is growing so slowly, I'm not noticing it until it's big.
Right.
But as a groomer, I mean, I would see a pet and think, whoa, what happened in the last 6 weeks?
Yeah.
And like, what are you talking about? I'm saying, this was not here 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
So I think groomers play such an important role in the care of pets. I think more so than any other pet professional.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I market it as such, and I play up the importance of it to my staff, that we need to be noting when there's abnormalities. We need to know what this dog's normal looks like, and then we also try as often as we can to keep our clients with the same groomer, so that you are able to build up that rapport with the client, build up that rapport with the pet. And when it's your first time seeing the dog, but somebody else has been grooming it, you don't necessarily know what their normal is. So I can say, Fluffy's not acting right today. Like, we're really lethargic. That's not normal. And that's something I don't think all salons are doing. It's kind of, we just fill with the first groomer available, and we try really hard not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, because changing behavior is really important. It goes on the flip side too, because I had a Maltese who was a terror. Okay.
Yeah.
But one day I'm grooming her, and boy, she's sweet as pie. Okay. And I'm like, there's something wrong with her. She's nice. She's sweet. And she goes, yeah, we noticed that. And I'm like, yeah, you need to take her to the vet, like now. Because as much as we like this behavior,
it's not normal.
It's not normal. Okay. And so they found some minor issue, and it was minor because it was found quickly.
Early. Yeah, exactly.
That whole early intervention. All right. So what could have been a major problem down the line was something fairly minor. And by the time I got there again, she was back to her normal, I hate you and I'm going to eat you,
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, it's good to have you back. You know? But I truly enjoyed it. But sometimes it's not just behavior. Sometimes it's not an underlying medical problem. Sometimes it's a change in the environment. There was this miniature schnauzer that I did. And oh my God, this dog hated grooming. Don't touch, that hurts. Whatever. He was miserable. Okay.
Yep.
Except for one time. Okay. And the one time was because all the grandkids were there and they were touching him. That dog was never so happy to see me to get him out of the house.
To get away.
Get away. And he was like, you know what? If I'm good, will you take longer? And I'm like, no, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that you're good and you deserve those grandkids.
That's right.
So, sometimes it's just the way it is. So anyway, you are now at this. How many employees do you have?
Right now there are 12 of us. The most I've had has been 17.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And that includes reception and cleaning and, all that. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I went mobile so I wouldn't have employees.
I hear that a lot.
Well, yeah, you know what? But I think that's part of the problem. I think I went mobile because I didn't want employees, because I worked in an environment in which management didn't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I bought that place, because she didn't even tell them she was thinking about selling it. So they came in that Monday and got a hell of a shock that, hey, you're under completely new ownership. But the first thing I said to myself was that I wanted to be the boss I wish I had had. And that's what I've tried every day to live up to. I have my bad days too. But I do try really, really hard. I value my employees. Like, I know I wouldn't be where I am at in my career and able to do the things that I do if I didn't have them. Having employees is it's so complicated because it's such a joy. I take so much pride in them, but it can also be so heartbreaking and so difficult to manage personalities, because that's what it feels like the majority of the time is I have to carefully craft which people are going to work together. And I think that that's important because not everybody is going to be able to function within the same zip code.
No, and I agree with you. Okay. I think that's an important part that sometimes owners think, well, you know what, I shouldn't have to, I'm not their mother. I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But this is your business. And you know what, knowing who belongs where. I mean, if I had a client come in, let's say I had employees, right? And the client comes in and she wants the dog hand stripped. I'm not just going to send that dog to anybody.
Right.
I'm going to put that dog with the groomer who can hand strip, right? And personalities are the same way too.
Yep.
Right? We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. We all have times when we are, how do I put this nicely? Because Women Petpreneurs is G-rated.
Everybody has their off days, okay?
All right.
And we have I try really hard. Like when I interview you, I tell you I don't do drama. If you're going to come in and intentionally stir the pot, you're out of here. I don't do it. I don't deal with it. It's not how we operate. If you have a problem with someone, you need to either speak to them immediately or speak to me so that we can mediate and handle it. I have to stress pretty often that letting stuff build it only hurts everyone. Now, there's definitely been times when I have tried too hard to make it work for an employee that just was never going to work. And those are usually the ones that are really heartbreaking for me that, I tried and it's just we're not a good fit.
All right. And that's okay. It's okay not to be a good fit.
Right.
There were people that I worked because I worked corporate, and I had good people. I had good people. I had more bad people.
So I have that client coming in right now.
I'm going to pause
Don't
to.
delete over.
Okay, so where were we?
You were telling about employees fitting.
Yes. Okay. So there we go. Yeah, because we took a little brief break. Anyway, so I've had good employees when I worked corporate because I was a grooming manager, but I also had a lot of people who just either didn't show up or basically didn't show up or didn't play nice with others.
Yeah.
And what it came down to is that my hands were tied as far as it came to hiring employees because their philosophy is, well, the more people in the grooming room, the better. And we just hire anybody, but no, that's great when it's fully booked and then all of a sudden nobody shows up. And now
Right.
I'm responsible to not only groom my own dogs, but try to groom as many as somebody else's dogs. Maybe sometimes two people don't show up. Okay. Hence why I went mobile.
Yep. And I definitely know, like, I helped the gal that taught me to groom actually came to work for me for several years. And sorry, I don't know I don't know how to silence that.
That's okay. We're recording this in a busy grooming shop.
I could reject it, but or maybe that. No. Good grief. Okay. Well, maybe that person will call back. Maybe they won't. Anyway, yeah, she actually, Kiri came to work for me, and worked for me for several years and then decided she really wanted to branch out and to do mobile. And I think she was really terrified to tell me that. Terrified that I would see her as competition, terrified that I would be offended. She didn't want to stay with me. A lot, there's a lot of emotion that goes into that, especially when you've had as long of a relationship as she and I had. And I was thrilled for her. I'm like, at first, of course, I did have that, initial, oh man, moment, but it was a moment. And then I was like, if I can be supportive and encouraging to all of the other salons in my area, there's no reason why I can't be that way for one of my best friends. And so my husband and I actually helped her do the conversion for her mobile unit. My husband spray foamed it for her. Like I helped her as much as humanly possible. And there's no reason why we can't be supportive like that in like every respect.
Oh, no, I agree. All right. There's a lot of pets out there that need grooming. There is no reason why we can't all be friends and be colleagues instead of competition.
Colleagues, not competition. Yep.
When I first went mobile, here was 2002 and mobile was like unheard of in this area, except apparently years before there was a mobile groomer and her name happened to be Mary too. But like 10 years before, okay?
Yeah.
So one of the first calls I get is like, oh, Mary, you're back. And it was like a real confusing conversation because he thought he was talking to the original Mary. And I had no idea what this guy was.
Yeah, who he was. Yeah.
And finally he was like, oh, no. I don't know who that is, but that is not me. Okay. But I can remember one of the area shops calling me and saying, hey, I want to see your van because maybe I might go mobile too. And I'm like, okay. So I go down, I drive the van down there and she like walks in, turns around, walks out. Claustrophobic.
Oh,
She
yep.
says,
Not for you.
she says, I can't walk. I cannot work in this. But you know what? At least she had an opportunity to see without spending money,
Yep.
on whether or not, because it's not for everybody. All
Yep.
right. Mobile isn't for everybody. A shop isn't for everybody. House call isn't for everybody. Home base isn't for everybody. It's finding out what it is you want to do
Right.
and networking with your area people.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
All right. So what is what is what is the one thing you dislike about being an employer?
Um, the drawing the line between being your friend and being in charge. That's been probably the most difficult line for me because I want to come in and joke around and be in the conversation and everything the way that staff gets to do. um, some things just are never going to be that way for me. Drawing that line between this is us, this is our friendship, and now I have to reprimand you because you're not sanitizing the shampoo bottles correctly, or some like it seems like it was very difficult to develop that relationship, and I finally at one point had to just step back from being friends, um, and say, when I correct you, when I do these things, it's not because I'm mad at you. I can still love you, but set these boundaries, and these are the boundaries for work. This is our work relationship, and it took me several years to really figure that out.
Okay, all right. Again, why I don't have employees.
Yeah, it can just hurt sometimes when, especially, I know that there's like something going on in your life that I want to help with, but maybe it's not I shouldn't know it, and that's kind of how they sometimes can feel about things, is like, do we tell her this? Do we not? And I just like my staff to know that they can tell me anything, and I will be there in whatever way, that I can be.
Okay, okay. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're back. I'll edit the commercial in later. Okay.
Perfect.
And I'm going to make an attempt to edit out the whole phone thing. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, I did it. Okay. If I gave up, what can I say? Video editing is not the thing I want to do. So, all right. So you also, I see you at a lot of trade shows.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about that.
Boy, so 2020, I decided to enter a stay-at-home creative grooming competition, and I placed I placed first in one division and second in another, and got just hooked. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna jump in. I'm good at this. The breed standard stuff still really intimidated me because I didn't have a mentor that knew that stuff. I did pet grooming, and I didn't have that foundation underneath me. But I felt pretty confident about creative grooming. And so I went to All American in 21 and competed and won in entry. And then I drove straight from Chicago to Las Vegas for Super Zoo and entered in the entry competition there, applied my critiques, and I placed first there too. So I was like, okay, I'm hooked. But my husband, so one of my critiques was that because I'm doing creative on a blue standard poodle, which is almost unheard of. Everybody has white dogs. I needed to pull light, and I can't remember if it was Adrian or Angela that told me how to do that. Would be, one of the ways would be to use glitter. Glitter will draw the light in. And so I told my husband, okay, I need glitter. It's Vegas. How hard could it be to find glitter? Right.
Right.
So my husband ran around to every booth, and this was 21. So right after COVID. So there weren't a whole lot of grooming booths at Super Zoo. But he went to every booth he could asking for glitter, except he didn't say glitter. He said stripper dust. He ran around to every booth and said, my wife, she needs stripper dust. I need stripper dust for her dog. And they are going, what in the hell are you talking about? But it caught the attention of the right person and landed me a sponsorship. So Chris Miller was one of the like CEO, I guess you'll say, of Pet Edge, Boss Pet, and he thought my husband was hilarious, and then it drew him in to watch me give my presentation, which my theme that year was Slash from Guns N' Roses. And he's a big rock guy, and he loved my presentation. And yeah, he asked me about how that works. And he, do companies usually sponsor these groomers? Now, this is my second competition ever. Maybe the third or fourth trade show I'd ever even been to. So I had no idea how sponsorships worked. And I said, yeah, they do. They do do sponsorships. I've got somewhere I gotta go take pictures for my win. Can I come right back? And I beelined it to Alyssa and said, Alyssa, how do sponsorships work? And she gave me the rundown. And then I went back and I said, okay, the things that keep me from competing are that I live in North Dakota and it's about as far away from every trade show as I can get. So the money to travel is really what keeps me from doing more. And here's about what it would cost for me to get to most any trade show. And they met that. So, yeah, so now I go to as many as I can.
Okay, I'm gonna just do like a quick shout out to Chris too. All right,
Yeah.
he's no longer with Pet Edge,
Right.
But he was a great guy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was introduced to him like 3 separate times. Okay, twice by the Rose, and once by Delise. And they kept telling him, you have to sit and you have to talk to her. She's not a competitor. She doesn't compete on anything. Her big thing is safety, yada, 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 and teaching. So finally, him and I sat down, and it was him and I brainstorming Pet Pro Talk Radio.
Yep.
So it's the website is petprotalk.com. And we have so many podcasts up there now. It's sort of like this clearinghouse that if you're interested in any of the pet industry podcasts, find it there. We're always looking for established podcasts to add. And if you're looking to do a new podcast, we can help you out too. But that was, maybe somebody outside of the industry trying to figure out how to be in the industry.
Yeah.
That I will give a lot of credit to Chris, because I think he spearheaded that. This is not our industry. We don't know anything about this industry. So let's learn and find out about it.
Yeah. And he was always asking questions, always talking to the next person, having us demo products. I really liked Chris. I have no issues with him whatsoever. So
I'm the same way. I liked him. And I like the fact that he listened to what it is I had to say. He took notes and he asked questions.
Yeah.
Anything that he didn't understand. And I think sometimes when you don't understand something, I think it's better for us too, because we know it's the things we know this stuff. So we kind of assume that when we're talking, people know what we're talking about. And maybe they don't.
Right.
So sometimes having someone say, well, I don't understand this. And like, what do you mean you don't understand that? Yeah, you don't understand it because it's groomer talk.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. My husband worked in plant and equipment, and he would talk about stuff. And like my father, who was a mechanic, it's all these specific tools that they have. All right.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me for a scissor and you tell me the type of scissor you want, I'm going to go get the correct scissor for you. All right. Mary, get me my 7-inch blenders. I'm going to go and I'm going to get you your 7-inch blenders. Okay. Whereas my husband will just pick a pair of scissors and hand it to you. But on the flip side, all right, he'll ask me for a wrench, and I'm like, there's 40 of them. I'm just going to pick the wrench that I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. But anyway, so I see you a lot. I also see your husband a lot. So it's nice when you have somebody supportive.
Yeah. He is really pushing me to, he's funny because he's like, go to as many of these things as you can. This is an amazing opportunity. I fully support you. And then it'll come time for me to leave for a week, and he'll be like, you're leaving us again? And it's like, well, yes, you you told me to.
Yeah. My husband used to travel a lot with me in the beginning, and then he got bored. And it's like, I don't want to be here anymore. So now he just stays home with the dogs.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that Pet Edge, he got to work the booth at Hershey, and everybody said they absolutely loved him. So I'm hoping that next year they'll bring him in for more.
Okay, he's charming. Okay, number one. He walks around with your poodle that's all booted up. Okay. And he wears, I know it's not a skirt. What do they call a kilt?
It's a kilt,
He
a
wears
tactical
a kilt.
kilt.
Yes. So he stands out.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
hate the kilt, but he loves it.
okay, but you know what? You're like, hey, where's Miranda's husband? And you'll just scan around, guy with the skirt over there.
Except now that Alicia Mulak's husband also comes in a kilt now. So there's two of them in kilts.
Okay. Well, maybe they need name tags then. It's just, you can't
Yeah.
have two guys with kilts. How can we possibly tell you apart?
And then I had like three other people, one of them being Colin Taylor at at Hershey, was asking him where he got his kilt. So who knows? Maybe you'll see Colin Taylor at the next trade show.
I would pay to see Colin Taylor.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I might get him one. Just send it to him.
I would. I'd pay to see it. There are a couple of guys I would pay to see in a kilt. Your husband looks very natural in it.
It's weird. It's weird how natural it is because he's not Scottish, or it's not his heritage, but yeah, he loves that kilt. So the best is seeing him do something you really shouldn't be doing in a kilt. Like when we went to Super Zoo, we did the Meow Wolf.
I went there too.
And he was going down the slides, and the kilt was flying up over his head, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, we did axe throwing at there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, cool. I don't remember him having that when we were there, but
no, we were there last year. They have all sorts of stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
You walk around and find some stuff. I mean,
yeah, that place is, and you could be there all day and not see everything.
Yeah, yeah. We decided not to do the supermarket thing.
Oh yeah.
But maybe you'll do that next year.
Yeah, we did that one. It's super weird.
Yeah, it looked really weird. And I think one of the people I was there with, she just looked at it and she goes, you have to be either high or drunk to do this.
We were not, but we still enjoyed it, but it is super weird.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, well, I'm neither, so maybe next year. All right. So what is the most fun things that you like about the trade shows?
Seeing all my friends. It's gotten kind of interesting because I came into it as someone who really wasn't active in that world. So I felt like, oh, I was a nobody. Nobody knows who I am. And I even said that to my employee that went with me to the last one, Orlando Fitz. And I said it close enough to the competition ring that I got yelled at by like 3 other competitors that are like, what do you mean we don't know who you are? Like, so starting to have a little bit of recognition is it's kind of an interesting and cool feeling for me. But
Well, you know what? You all got to start somewhere.
yeah,
Okay. So anybody that you see that's quote unquote a name, okay, there was a time where nobody knew who they were, but they stepped out of their comfort zone and they did it. That's about the only thing, which is I was trying to get into rescue rodeo. I did not get into rescue rodeo. I missed it by one person. And the only reason I missed that, yeah, I know it's all your fault. But no, not even entirely, because there was a dog for me. I was
yeah,
the last person, but the dog wasn't well.
right.
So
Did you hear what happened to mine?
no.
So they called my name and put me in, and then when they were divvying up the dogs, then they went, "Oh, just kidding, Miranda, you're out. Your dog can't be here. They're going to be at least a half an hour late. So um, we're going to cut you." And I went, "If I'm willing to take the time penalty, can I still compete?" And I would just get less time than everybody else. Um, and Quincy and was it Joey?
Yeah.
Quincy and Joey conversed about it for a second and said, "Yeah, sure." And it ended up being a little Pomeranian. So I had about an hour handicap. Everybody else had been started in grooming for about an hour. So I just went around from person to person to person and tried to be the assistant because I had nothing else to do. And then when that dog showed up, it ended up being just a little pom, maybe a pom mix. Not a lot of coat, not a lot to do. So even though I had that handicap, I still was the first one done because there just wasn't a whole lot to do and the dog was over it. So I did my cute little outline trim and gave him a cute little bow and then just loved up on him um, until the end. So even if you had gotten that spot, they might have kicked you out anyway.
Oh well.
Yeah, yeah. No placement for me, but that's okay. It was a very cute little dog, and I enjoyed the experience because I'd never gotten to do rescue before.
Yeah, I'll probably make an attempt some point down the line. I'm not 100% certain I'll be back at Hershey, only because it's not the cost of getting there, it's the how to get there from the West Coast. All right. So
Right.
no nonstop flight to Harrisburg.
Oh,
Not
right. Yeah.
not from the West Coast. It's doing a layover somewhere. Okay. And because it's going west to east, I'm starting off and I'm probably on a red eye.
Yep.
All right.
And that's been a lot of my experience too. And then trying, because I do often fly with Dyson, trying to find flights with short layovers so that I don't have my dog sitting in the airport for 12 hours, unable to go to the bathroom, because he absolutely will not use those nasty airport relief stations. He won't even step foot in them. He hates it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some of the dogs. I mean, I've traveled with dogs before, never flying, been in a car, but boy, can they be fussy about where they're going to pee and poop.
Yeah. Yeah. And thankfully he's awesome and he holds it. Like I'm not really worried about him needing to relieve himself. It's more his comfort. Like I know he'll be uncomfortable holding it that long. So I'm gonna
And we'd be at a hotel and they're like, this does not smell like home. I can't poop here.
now I've got a story about my puppy, my party poodle that we were in, I think it was Atlanta, but I don't remember for sure. And we're in the hotel, and I guess I took a little too long getting myself ready between taking him out in the morning and taking him out again after breakfast. And he went into the walk in shower and peed and pooped in the walk in shower. And I was like, good boy. Like,
Like, good
excellent.
boy. Thank you very much. That's a pretty easy cleanup for me.
I was like, that was super helpful. Good job.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I don't have any pets I travel with anymore.
Yeah.
My current crop of dogs will not do well with people touching them. They're going to become overwhelmed, and I don't need like Pooh Bear, who's so sweet. This dog is just sleeping in my sweater. He looks like a little angel.
Yep.
Okay. He will rip your face off. Okay. Yeah, I'm talking about you. So yeah, I'm like dogless now when I travel.
Yeah.
All right, where do you see yourself in a couple of years?
Um, I hope to still be competing. I hope to be doing some education. Um, maybe some creative grooming stuff. But I really want to bring continuing education to my local groomers. Um, I'm contemplating my like 5-year plan. I'll have my first salon paid off in February, and
Nice.
my second salon, the one I'm filming from right now, uh, I have about 4.5 years left to pay on this one. So in 5 years, I will be completely debt free. Our house, our everything. We don't have any vehicle payments, nothing. I'm very big on debt free lifestyle. Um, and I think at that time, then maybe I might start a pet grooming academy out of this second salon.
Okay, cool. You should talk to me when you're closer to doing that.
Will do.
Okay. So do you have any words of advice before we wrap it up?
Um, if there was one thing I was going to say about the industry as a whole, but especially competitive grooming, if there's one thing I want to bring to my time as a competitive groomer, it's radical honesty. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the celebrity, the popularity of certain people, certain products, that we're not honest and true. And I think sharing your experiences, calling out bad behavior when you see it, um, needs to happen more. And we need to talk more about our fears and our feelings about competing, because I think that's what like will get more people doing it. Um, Not having this like I'm better than you because I'm competing attitude, but instead like here are my faults and I'm trying to improve on them. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm competing. Um, I'm learning that a lot more as I get into the breed standard stuff, which I'm mainly doing because I'm working towards my master groomer certification. Um, I just think we need to be honest with people, with each other. Perfect example I can give is my first time competing in wire coat and sporting was the same day. Um, I competed. I was one of the, I think I was the only person with a clipper cut with my Scottish Terrier. And I ended up placing third in wire coat and entry. And I had taken lessons. I had, I really, really worked on that groom for my certification. I placed third, but I only got a 75% on my certification test. So the bare minimum to pass. One judge said the exact opposite of the next judge. And that's just something that I don't think is really talked about in the competition world is it's subjective. Like,
Mhm.
yes, you are supposed to be meeting a standard, but one judge's interpretation of that standard is going to be different from the next.
Yeah.
Um, and we need to not take that so personally. But after placing, I went into the bathroom, I bawled, and I literally said out loud, that was so validating. It was so validating to get that placement. I'll never forget that placement. It's my first one in breed standard. Um, and then I went to compete immediately after that with a Cocker Spaniel that I had taken one Cocker lesson. I'd never touched one in a breed standard. I'd shaved plenty down in a 10, but I've never put one in a breed standard groom. And my prep work was off because I didn't know what I was doing. But I found out moments before judging that there were only 4 of us in the class. And I went, only 4 of us. I might stand a chance. And if I hadn't known that, my reaction would have been so different. But to be the only one in a class of 4 that didn't place hit me really hard. So I had this huge up from just placing with my Scotty, and then this huge crash to not placing with my cocker. And I lost it. I cried. I had a meltdown. I tore apart the groomer next to me's groom, going, oh, I think my bevels were better than her bevels, and this and that. But I didn't look at all the things she did so much better than me.
Yeah.
And my meltdown only lasted about 30 minutes. It wasn't long, but in that 30 minutes, I realized what a shithead I was to have these feelings, even though it was a moment. But I contacted that groomer because, to me, if she found out that I felt bad about her groom, that would devastate me, because I know she did all those things I did with that Scotty to get that placement. I know that she took private lessons. I know that she worked hard on that groom. I know that she invested in that dog. For someone to have even just a moment of doubt of her abilities was wrong. For me to have a moment that could have potentially invalidated all the work and effort she put in was wrong. So I told her. I reached out to her, and I didn't know her before that, but she was nothing but kind to me in the ring. So I said, hey, I had a moment and I'm really sorry for it. And here are all the things you did better than me, and I appreciate the work you put into that groom. And now she and I are friends to this day.
Good. Well, you know what? I think it's good that you had that really good validating moment, because I think if the situation would have been reversed, would you have gone into the ring with the Scotty?
Yeah, don't know. And it's the same thing too, where you can't let one scary judge keep you
Yeah.
from going back.
I mean, I can remember when I was my very first serious trade show. It was Groom Expo, and I took a bunch of classes, and I remember seeing Suzette go in the hallway, and I stopped her and said, "Hey, I had a question about your class," and she was so gracious, so gracious. She says, "You know what? I'm walking to my next class. Come walk with me," and she took the time to answer my question. I love Suzette.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now here's where I blame Sue. Okay. Because it gave me the courage to talk to somebody, another instructor, who flat out said, if I was paying attention in class, I would know the answer to it.
Yeah. And
Oh, yeah.
it's like you're gonna miss things. You're gonna be taking a note on one thing and miss the next thing. You don't absorb all of that information immediately. It doesn't work like that.
So when I decided that I wanted to move into education, it was, how could I be more like Sue,
Yeah.
less like this other person?
Yeah, I agree. I'm a fan of constructive criticism.
Yep.
Um, and that doesn't mean it's got to be sugar coated. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're gonna tell me my prep is shit, tell me how I can do it better.
Yeah.
And that's, truthfully what it boils down to is some judges are just scary, and they don't even realize they're doing it half the time.
No, I don't think so. And I think sometimes it's personality too.
Yeah.
Because you could probably, I mean, I'm not familiar with, because I've never been in the competition ring, but I bet you if you tell me who they were, I'm gonna be like, yeah, no, that's just them. I don't think they mean to be scary. That is just them.
Yeah. And this was with that cocker, it was Terry DiMarino. And I've heard from other people that she can be a tough judge.
Yep.
But now she was my judge at Fits for Creative, and I had a totally different experience at Creative. And she wasn't mean to me or anything with my cocker. She just was very straightforward.
Yes.
And it's just that I was having that huge emotional moment that made it seem like it was this much bigger deal than what it was.
Yeah. Now that I will say about Terry. Terry is Very matter of fact and to the point. She doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No.
So, Miranda, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you bringing me on. Thank you.
All right, so everybody join us next week when I interview somebody else making a difference in the pet industry.